4 of Our Life Now and Forever playthrough. There's only like a week left in their Kickstarter. They just hit their final stretch goal, unless there's another added in the last week, which, I mean, there might be, you never know. But yeah, so make sure to go check that out in case there is. But yeah, we're going to dive right back into where we left off. All right. It didn't only smell like old people inside the house. The air was stiff like it had gotten old too. A staircase went up, and a narrow hallway went deeper inside. Huge flowers patterned the paper plastered over the walls, when you could see the walls anyway. The hall was crowded with shelves and tables, and those were cluttered with more things. It was sort of like walking through a museum with all the fancy pieces to see, but it could also remind you of a storage closet that was stuffed with things you had nowhere else to put. So maybe a closet in a museum? Though you didn't know any museums or closets that had colorful candy sitting in worn silver dishes the way this house did. So cute. Such a grandma house. Such a grandma house. Look at this place. I love it. There were two kinds, bright see-through hard candies in see-through plastic wrappers, and pale taffies you couldn't see that were all twisted up in waxy paper. Mom passed by you, not even looking at the candy bowl. The side table it sat on was much closer to your height than hers. It was right in front of your face. Why are there noises outside? I'm freaked out. We had an incident yesterday. We did not. We just got the shit scared out of us by a trick or treat, some poor trick or treater, because we did not anticipate any. Because I didn't know there were children in this neighborhood, and our house is not decorated. The lights were on or all off to not allow trick or treaters. But we got one, and it came right up to the door, which I stepped aside. And there's like a window and door, so it scared the absolute crap out of me. So I am a little bit jumpy. It's fine. I have my cat on a water break. Alright. I will ask. Ma? Mrs. Bowman, can I have a candy? What? Oh. Your ma glanced behind her, finally taking note of the offering near the front of the door. That's up to Mrs. Bowman. Of course, take whatever you like. Well, if you do, you can't eat it all today. Yes, go on now. Thank you. You took. We will take a little taffy. The wrapper was sticky and stiff. You knew that meant it was as old as everything else there, but the little treat inside was probably still good. You tucked it into your pocket and caught up with the others before you lost sight of them. Tamar's granny showed the way down the hall and through a big opening in the wall. Past that was the living room. Or not. When Granny crossed the rug that was also flowered and sat in a smooth green chair, she didn't call it that. This is the drawing room. I come here and sit on my throne and entertain our guests. Read. You can take a seat, but do be careful. These are antiques. Tamarack just hovered around the table. Hearing adults talk was one thing, but sitting down and doing nothing while listening to it was asking for too much. We will, Cassie, this is funny. Then where are all the drawing things, like paper and pencils? You wondered earnestly. Ma snickered for some reason. It made you frown, and then both adults smiled at you nicely. You won't find that here. That's not what a drawing room means. However, Tamarack has colored pencils in her bedroom. Yeah, I do. I've got all the colors in the rainbow and even more. That's incredible. Thanks. We will sit on the couch very carefully. It looked like the sturdiest option. You pitched your butt right along the edge with your back straight, touching the furniture as little as possible. Ma settled into the couch cushion next to you and leaned against the armrest to get even cozier. You and Granny were the only ones taking the antique seriously. Mrs. Bauman didn't say anything over that, though she did go on to say many other things. The two ladies talked about each other and their kid and grandkid. Tamarack's grandma was retired, you found out. Her husband was supposed to be too, she said with a very strong opinion in the matter. Mrs. Bowden explained to her ma how he was constantly taking on temporary consulting jobs. And if not that, then he was being taken out for dinner or lunch or something else so people could pick his brain on advice casually, even if he couldn't be an actual employee. You had no idea why anyone would say something like picking brains. It sounded so gross. It was because of that you started paying attention to the words shared between the grown-ups more closely. Mrs. Bauman and Ma were still talking. It's as if these people will think half the town will fall apart without him. Oh, he was in construction work, remodeling, furbishing, repairs. I see a very apt comparison then. They both laughed, though Ma's polite chuckle didn't compare to Granny's hearty cackle. Now it's true that there always is something or another going wrong somewhere. Golden Grove isn't as young as it used to be. But there's only so much he can do when he's as aged as those derelict buildings themselves. The opening and slamming of a door followed her declaration. For a second, everybody stopped. Did Granny's description insult the house itself? No. Heavy steps came after the bang, and then man you'd never seen passing by the opening. Man you'd never seen pass by the opening in the hall. Opa! One hand gripping the armrest and the other swinging it out towards your mom, Mrs. Bauman lifted herself off the swirly patterned cushion. That's him right now. Granny abruptly called out as you got sight of a rare animal in the wild and needed the rest of the team to get over there while they still had a chance. Though that wasn't right. Yelling would only scare a peaceful animal away. Instead, maybe she was trying to catch a shooting star before it disappeared for good. Except that didn't work either, because Mrs. Bowman was able to make the meteor still. Mr. Bowman stood in suspense in space, silently staring through the wall hole in the drawing room. Tamarack's Opa was very gray, his full suit, his dull shoes, and his short hair. What's mysterious were his eyes. They might have been gray too, or maybe you were tricked by all the other grayness and they were actually blue. He pushed his hat high up on his forehead with a large hand, slow and steady. Afternoon. Hearing his voice cemented an impression that had started building in you. It was a low, grumbling noise. The tone sounded the way scratchy beard and bushy eyebrows must have felt. The sturdy older man, colorless and rough, was basically a stone statue that had come to life somehow, and it was the total opposite of Mrs. Bowman. Hi, Opa. This is Cassie and their ma. They're people in the other house. The neighbors. Mr. Bowman mumbled briefly in response to my grandpa. His eyes shifted away from the seating area. He wasn't talking about the news, but you got the impression he was thinking about it. Good day. He turned his body to match the new direction of his gaze. Fine, go hide in your cave. We'll be here if you decide to join us after all. Mrs. Bauman showed her surrender and creakily lowered herself into the chair again. Dinner will be ready in a couple hours. You, at least, can't miss that. Mr. Bauman made his escape without looking back. He probably could miss that if he tried. Where were we? I remember. Tamarack's grandpa had only said a few real words. You could count them on one hand. Her granny had to have said at least 100,000 times more than that, and still had more to go. But your mom was talking too, and you could tell she wasn't ready to be done. She had a listening face on, not her "how soon can I get this to stop" expression. We will sit there quietly. Cassie's well behaved. Suddenly, for the first time in ages, Ma looked at you instead of one of the three Bowmans. She hadn't forgotten you were there too. Oh, Cassie, are you fine staying longer? There are a couple things I'd like to discuss with Mrs. Bowman while I can. As little of an impact you had on the adults, Tamara still did enough to distract them all. Since her grandpa left, she had been staring at the window and doing that thing where she bumped her bag around. She used her hip instead of her butt this time. With the way Granny daintily placed her hands on her lap, she really did like a queen on her throne. You had to wonder, was she a kind queen or an evil queen? Why don't we let the two young friends play in the backyard while us old folks stay here and talk? You wouldn't go far, would you, Tamara and Cassie? We'd come to get you on a time to leave. Would that be acceptable, Opal? It was weird to have someone call Ma by her name, even if it was her name. She was Ma. That would be great. Excellent suggestion. Tamarack's bag stopped jiggling. It was the only reason you heard her intent whisper. Come on, Cassie. Neither of you had officially been given permission to leave before she zoomed out of the room and around the corner in the same direction her Opa had vanished to. He hadn't been the only one who wanted to get away. Don't run in the hall, please. Knowing well that the warning wasn't going to change anything, Mrs. Bauman sighed in resignation. Fine, no one listens to a word I say. Meanwhile, you hadn't moved an inch. Ma gave you the coaxing you needed. It's all right. You should go play too. I'll see you soon. You went after Tamarack, stepping carefully through the unfamiliar house. Though there wasn't anything in your way, the furniture and knickknacks were all pushed against the walls. The only place that was clear of clutter was the center of the hall. Past the living room, there were doors to unknown places and another hole in the wall that went to the kitchen. You spotted Tamarack at the very end of the house. She yanked open a back door and bounded through. She left it wide open, a pearl of light and gold inviting you through the dark. Their backyard is so cute. When you came to stand at the edge, you found... When you came to stand at the very edge, you found Tamarack had waited for you to catch up at the bottom of a couple uneven wooden steps. It's just the heat kicking on? I don't know. There's strange noises. I'm sure it's fine. They were bent inward, like after being pressed down so many times they say sunk. It was your turn to leave a mark on that impression. One step, then another, then both of you were outside. Invisible ribbons of perfume melted off your clothes, unable to live out in the fresh, freezing air. Just like Chio's backyard, Tamarack's house had no fence around it. There was no way to tell where the yard stopped and the forest began. It was even more impossible to see where the forest ended. It might go on forever. That was all Oh my god, I can't read. That was all that was the same for the two places, though. Instead of Chio's secret hideout, there was a fancy table with two chairs that looked like it was there for Tamar's grandparents. And hanging from a thick branch was a rope-strung tire swing. That part of the place had to be for the granddaughter. And Tamara called a cry of freedom and skipped down the small stone path, never touching a blade of grass. She hefted the messenger bag over her shoulders, chucked it aside with a thunk, and flung herself through the hole of the tire. All you could see of Tamarack were her little legs kicking up in the air and her arms spread out past the width of the tire, so she was floating. The tire slowly twisted on its rope until it brought her eager face around. "Hi, Cassie!" You grinned at her and went over. Tamarack's upright legs snapped down, and she plunged the tips of her boots in the soft earth below. It was supposed to stop the tire from doing another spin, except she couldn't stop it all the way. The turning spire twisted her to the side. Tamarack held firm, jerking futilely in the tire to center it again. But none of that meant she couldn't keep talking to you. She happily explained how it all came to be. Omi and Opa got this just for me. They're too old to use the tire swing. We'll say, it'd be funny to see them try to. Thinking about it made you laugh. She snickered too. That'd be a terrible idea. They can't bend over that much. But then she wiggled her body and dug her shoes even harder trying to get out. Let's play something. Could I try using the tire swing? Tamara wriggled some more until she plopped out on the backside and landed in the grass on her butt. She got to her feet and came up to where you were standing, then pointed to the free space. Your turn. Thank you. Why is Netflix texting me? I don't even have Netflix. Why do I have this on my phone? Do I have Netflix installed? Oh my god, I do. We don't even have Netflix anymore. Uninstall. Don't give me notifications in the middle of my stream. The tire swung and twisted you as you threaded yourself through the hole. When your head poked out through the other side, you let all your weight drop onto the swing. It held you up. And so you giggled as you spun slowly around and around. She followed along with the movement, leaving a circle of footprints in the grass. You could always see her face no matter how much it turned. The excitement of the swing eventually settled. You breathed in deeply through your nose. The air stung just a little bit, but mostly it was nice. Tamarack wasn't talking or laughing or squealing like she normally was, and the two of you were alone. That also didn't happen a lot. If you wanted to, you could ask her something you'd be wondering about. Sure. Hey, Tamarack, I was wondering why you never called me Cass. You and Tamarack had known each other for almost 2 whole days. She said your name lots of times by then. You just couldn't figure out why she never said Cass. It's okay if you use it. My mom doesn't, but that's different. Maybe you didn't remember. I remembered, but you told me your name first. It seemed like the most important one. Omi is Omi, Opa is Opa, Chiu is Chiu, and Cassie is Cassie. If there's a best name, why would I say something that's not the best? I can use your nickname too if it's just as good. That's sweet. Thank you. You're nice to want to do that. Use my name then. You're welcome, Cassie. She said your name brightly with special attention to extra prove that she was good with what you wanted. You felt all warm and fuzzy having call you Cassie and do it like that. So sweet. And Tamarack left the path in front of the tire, moving with purpose. Something was happening, or was about to happen. So you slipped out backwards from the swing and caught up with her. Sorry. Whack the microphone. Alright, she pressed her fisted hands into her hips and spoke without turning around. Tamarack's hair fluttered animatedly with each word because she nodded while talking. That made it look like a fluffy golden sheep was the one saying it. Oh. She is like a little sheep. We better start soon. It's gonna get dark. Start what? Finding some good stuff. There's a lot of it out here, you know. She reached down to collect her big bag, hooking it around her shoulder like normal. That's when she turned around and you were faced with Tamarack herself instead of the sparkly land side of her. Have you been to this place before? Not to this town. I only came here when I moved in yesterday. Yes. Okay. Alright, so that's not far at all. It's pretty close, so it's not nearby. It's really, really far away. Okay. What are all my options? Okay. We're from Arizona. Now, I don't know a lot about United States geography. So I think it's gotta be. That's a big fucking country. It's a big fucking where are they? Washington? No, that's not the state. No. Washington? Seattle, Washington? Are they in Washington? No, they're in Oregon. I don't even know what place they're in. Oregon to Arizona? How far away is that? I'm going to say it's pretty far away. Really, really far away? Yeah. I don't know anything. Sure, Arizona. I don't even know. That's how you spell it, right? Maybe I should have just made Cassie from Canada. Then I would know these things. All right, but I'm from Arizona. It's really, really far away. I don't know. Is it really, really? Sure. Cassie doesn't know geography either. Really? That's amazing. And we're the same again. I haven't been here a long time either. But I've learned a lot already about outside and everything. Well, the forests in the world are different, and some places don't even have forests. This one is great because there's mushrooms and rose hips and acorns and great rocks and more. I can show you good spots to find things since you're newer to the forest than me. Here we go. I think, I bet you and me can find everything cool in the whole mountain. Let's get looking right now. Yeah. Together, you and Tamara began your treasure hunt at the end of the forest. In bushes, at the base of trees, on rocks, across low-hanging branches, around fallen logs, nothing was left unexamined. When Tamara found something worth saving, she placed it in the widest, flattest stone in the path. That was to keep her fingers free to do more collecting. When you discovered something you want to take with you, place it on the table instead. Your paws grew rapidly as the two of you dashed back and forth from the clearing near the house and the wilderness a few feet away. I'm just going to check the stream real quick. Looks like we're good to go. Just like in class, Tamara was fully focused and squinting hard. She only ever stopped snooping to rub her tattered sleeve ends again into her eyelids and keep going. Maybe dirt was getting into her eyes with how close she kept getting to the ground, and maybe bits of twigs too, since she wasn't afraid to shove her head into the brush. Leaves did get stuck in her hair, same as the first time you'd ever seen her. It's so pretty. As time passed, a shadow crept over the yard, an obscuring sweater pulled over the body of the earth as it got colder. Like Tamarack's own sweater, it had a few holes here and there that were easier to see through. You and Tamarack were focused to limit your search to those rare spotlights. It wouldn't be possible to keep doing this much longer. You glanced over at her. Oh, that's so pretty! Oh, it's adorable! The little sunbeam and the little in her hair. Oh, she's so sweet. Oh my god. Tamara crouched in the grass, encircled by darkness and trees. She shone under a stream of pale evening sun. A few strong rays hit her back, giving the illusion of golden fairy wings. She is like a little fairy. Oh, she's so cute. Seeing her there that way, it made so much more sense than when you saw her in school or at her grandparents' antique house. That was what was natural to Tamarack, being in nature. Even her name was a kind of tree. When Tamarack officially announced the end of her hunt, the day was reaching its end too. That was probably the only reason she was stopping. You didn't mind stopping either. Your treasure pile was growing big and varied. All that was left to do was to gather it up. That was easier to think than do. You struggled to get each one of the small, mostly brown valuables into your grasp. Tamarack couldn't scoop everything into her hands at one time. Pebbles and row hips rolled out of her grasp and off the stepping stone. That was close enough for the impatient kid. Tamarack rushed over to show you what she had managed to find and carry. This is what I got. She nudged her hands full to bursting with wonderful things even nearer. An acorn dropped to the ground. Here, take whatever you want. But that's yours, and I already have a lot of that. I know, you have your own for yourself. You can take part of mine so you also have things to give away. Or maybe you want to share what you got and keep the ones I gave you, something like that. You can share with your ma or my Omi and Opa and everyone. That's the most fun part. Oh, that was the answer to a puzzle you hadn't realized you were confused by. Tamarack said she went out into the woods all the time. She must have found enough things to fill her grandparents' entire house. Her granny would definitely not like that. She needed room for her own clutter. But that was never a problem because Tamarack didn't hold on to the collection herself. She spread it out to everybody. That's so weird. Oh, not so weird. That's so cute. I was reading that's kind of weird at the same time. Not that it's weird. I'll take some of yours, but only if you take some of mine too. The exchange couldn't be done smoothly. Neither of you had free hands to pass or pick up the presents. Tamarack settled for dumping part of her pile over the stuff you already had in your right hand, then you took some of the finds in your left hand into her palms. When the trade finished, you had almost exactly the same amount of goods, but it didn't feel the same. You knew that in one hand you held treasures you found with your own effort, and the other were gifts from your friends. Both were important for different reasons. Still grasping a loose collection of forest finds, Tamarack marched off to the side, out of her backyard and into yours. Tamarack, we can't go far. Tamarack flipped around. She leaned towards you to put her whole body into the call. It's okay, I'm just going to Chio's house, come on. She had already assumed the advance across your lawn before you even had a chance to react. Alright, okay. will we'll go after her nervously. You and Tamara crunched through the long grasses and a million leaves. The sidewalk in the front of the house was a big half circle, and the back of them curved like that too. When you moved around the bend, you could see your entire yard. This is our backyard. It's very cute. It was empty and growing wild. There was no fort or tire swing, no table with chairs, not even one little lantern with a burnt out bulb. If you faced away from the house, you'd think that you were in the heart of the woods. That made sense. The house had been empty forever. Why would there be anything outside of it? At the other end of the field, Chio's fort could be seen in the towering distance. It encouraged Tamarack to shuffle ahead faster. The quicker step jiggled her hands and caused a few more of the pieces of reflection to rain down around her. Since it all came from the outside anyway, that wasn't lettering. The structure wasn't the only sign you were almost there. It wasn't only a sign you were almost there, it was her destination. Tamarack went straight to the hideout. There, she arranged the entire collection in a new pile at the base of the climbing wall. Tamarack poked through the heap, pinching an acorn there and a rose hip here, tucking each into her overall pockets without taking her eyes off her work. It took you a second to be sure, but she was gathering the things you had given her. She had a good memory if she could remember where those came from, though what probably was happening was she guessed what came from you by choosing the things she didn't find herself. When her hands were free, she brushed them together. Her job was done. We left you part of the treasures you found. The presents you left for Chio were carefully selected. You added each one to the group, making the collection seem even grander. What was left got stuffed in your bag for safekeeping. Yeah. You had something else to share too, a candy. It was impossible to know if Chio would like any of the treats from Granny's house, the flavors or the types, but you wanted him to have it more than you wanted to have it. Tamarack giggled as the treat joined the array of items, becoming the crowning jewel. There was nothing left to do then, and that's when Tamarack spoke for the first time since you've gotten to Chio's guard. Let's go. Chio's gonna be home before dinner. He could catch us. Or his parents might see us. I never talked to them. Who knows what they do? It took her long enough to realize this could be bad. You nodded seriously. Alright. You fled the scene of the crime. Or was it a crime if you leave new things instead of taking their stuff? It didn't matter. You weren't gonna find out. The two of you went around the bend in a sprint, kicking up a whirl of leaves behind you. Not you or her looked back. Tamarack got past a stone pathway like it was a finish line to a race and crumpled into the grass, laughing. The giggles turned into achy yips when she landed all the way down. Ow, 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 I fell in the rocks in my pocket. She laughed some more and out more too, each one taking its fair turn. Are you okay? Mm-hmm. Tamarack rolled off to the side and settled on her tummy. She squished her big cheeks against her little fists and kicked her feet in the air. The rubber boots flopped around on her feet. She looked up at She looked up at you, her smile puffed to the side like it did a lot. It was an invitation to join her below. You did, sitting carefully on the cool lawn in front of her. Chio cleans up the trash, and now he's getting surprised from the forest thanks to us. Tamarack had enough excitement for 2 kids. Cassie, out of all the friends I have here, you're the best one. It still surprised you that she'd said that. You'd heard her before, a long time ago when you first came to her house. If she was going to say it again, you figured it would have happened way before, but she wanted to do it then. She kept going. We came to the exact same neighborhood, almost at the same time, and are the same age. I'm a girl and you are sometimes. You have fun outside and I do too. We both got scarves. I've never, ever met a kid that was just like me. That's important. That's serious. Tamarack had started shouting, then sucked in the loudness with a breath and what came out next was low. You had to really listen to know. You and me are going to be friends forever. Those words were something more than a regular promise, more than a pinky promise too. It was a swear. Not the bad kind of swear though. Oh. There we go. I think... Yes, I think... You bobbed your head joyfully. You thought so too. You were the same again. Oh, cute. We're best friends. Oh, that's so sweet. Her dark red eyes were 2 perfectly round apples hanging in the bushy tree of golden leaves. They shone. The swing, the searching, the secret ship to Chio's house, each were complete, and at that point you were pretty sure Tamarack's final plan was to stay right there until the grass grew around her. It was that moment when the door creaked open and 2 smiling faces looked over the yard. Your mom and Tamarack's grandma came to get you. It was hard to imagine they really spent the whole time sitting in the living room. Hi, Cassie. Sorry to interrupt, but we gotta get going. Aw, bye, Cassie. I'm gonna stay outside. Sending a smile to Ma, you push yourself to your feet. Bye, Tamarack. Mrs. Bowman didn't even question Tamarack remaining laid out in the grass. She left her granddaughter there and guided her guest through the back door and up to the front run. Why couldn't you have just gone around the house and threw it? It was too late to tell them because it was already done when you realized it. Mrs. Bowman stopped at the entryway, opened the door, and fitting herself in the rare opening between the furniture to clear a path. Your mom kept going, past her nice and orderly. On the porch, Mal halted and turned. The hostess had moved to stand in the doorway so they were face to face. It was good to meet you two. I'm sure we'll be seeing each other often. Good day. Of course. Goodbye, and thanks for the talk. Mrs. Bauman nodded kindly and slowly pressed the door forward. Ma waited until she was doing it to a plank of wood. The door was shut, and then she let her hand drop and talk to you. Busy day, huh? But that was good. The words went high, a sigh of relief, instead of low, which would have been real contentment. Instead of just something good happening, it was more like when you avoid something bad happening. That was still good, but in a different way, as if nothing had been at stake. Time to go. Except, before you left the Bauman porch, something made you stop in your tracks. There was a stranger strolling the cul-de-sac, rolling a bike along with them. It was almost as long as the person was tall. The sight had a totally different impact on your ma. It pulled her forward. Oh, it's Mr. Lin! Mr. Lin? As in Mr. Qiulin? That was Chiu's dad, probably. Or it could be an uncle or a way older sibling. He wore a pale green sporty jacket and also nice black dress pants. His hair was super neat, but styled in a fun way that most grown-ups didn't have. That kind of introduced you to him without needing to say a word. Mr. Lin, whoever he was a real professional, but not at all strict about it. Though, wait, why did your mom already know that? How do you know him? What? We've talked about him many times, and you know Qiu. That's his father. Okay, Qiu's dad it was. That didn't really answer your real question. You racked your brain for the past conversations your mom was talking about. Nothing came up. Yeah, I know Qiu, but I've never heard anything about his dad. Confusion screwed her face. She was as convinced you knew as much as you were sure that you didn't. Wait, that's right. Suddenly she laughed and pressed a hand to her cheek. I've never called him by his name to you. It's a real estate person who helped us find our house. Oh! Memories of Bob pacing around your old apartment, getting excited whenever the real estate person was called with the news played behind your eyes. That was Qiu's dad on the other line the whole time. I've seen his picture. He has a website and we've chatted over the phone. Yesterday was the first time we met in person. It was who I was waiting for to get our keys from. We'd arrived extra early and he couldn't break away for some other appointments till the evening. Glance away from your own parents, Qiu's. It was easy to see how the two were related. They both looked very pleased with themselves and the whole world when nothing was happening. Qiu was definitely the cooler of the two, though. When you turned back to Ma, she had a huge, encouraging smile on her face. Let's see him over there. It'd be hard to move that bike for him to come to us. Ma's attention was split between gesturing for Mr. Lin to stop and getting you to go with her. One of her hands went up and one went down. Hello! Qiu's dad reined in the moving bike and stood in place. Next, he waved. Hello, Mrs. Bylily. What a coincidence running into you out here. Good seeing you again. It's nice to see you, too. This is my child, Cassie. So they're the one. Hi, Cassie. Your real estate agent folded his arms and tilted his head down. The hair in front of his face fell away, letting you see him clearly. This is a big moment. I can finally introduce myself after hearing so much about you. From your mom, of course, but Qiu had his own contributions. Feels like meeting a celebrity in person. So Qiu's dad. Oh yeah, Qiu had told you himself. He talked to his parents about what had happened yesterday. Mr. Lin knew things about you from 2 different people. There we go. We'll say, hello, Mr. Lin. You're so polite. The edges of Ma's mouth curled playfully. Mr. Lin happened to bring up Qiu's enthusiastic note-taking habit and how those papers ended up everywhere. He's an industrious boy. A realization came to you in a flash. That was how she knew the message wasn't anything weird when he showed her the paper airplane. She'd been getting insider info. But then Mr. Lin adjusted his glasses and the topic of conversation. Welcome officially to the neighborhood. I wanted to come by and see how you were settling in, but I wasn't sure when it would be a good time. I'd hoped to catch both of you. There's an unfamiliar car in the road. I'm guessing that's yours, but the house was dark. Neither of you looked to be around. Yes, that's ours. I'm sorry you missed us. We were meeting the neighbors to the right. Tamarack very kindly invited Cassie and me to her home. Dorothea and I had a talk, and we very briefly saw Ernst pass by. Don't apologize. It's perfect. If you ever get a chance to visit the Bauman household, I'd say take it. And now you can come meet the other neighbors. Well, one other. You are already well acquainted with Qiu, and we've said our hellos here. Do you have time to swing by? Personally, I'd love to introduce myself to Mrs. Lin. She was really only answering for herself. Your mom asked for your thoughts before deciding on another meet and greet. Can we go see Qiu's mom, Cassie? Okay. Thank you. We can stop by now. That's great. Give me just a minute. Mr. Lin patted the handle of his bike, bringing attention to it. That was something he needed to deal with. He coaxed a set of wheels to move over with an expert hand. He got it across the road, up the curve, over the grass, and onto Qiu's, also his entryway. Ma gradually made the same trip. She kept a lot of distance between her and the real estate man, not knowing to risk even the slim chance of getting in the way. He went along his Ma's pace so you could stay together. Mr. Lin rapped his knuckles on the white door of the red house. He busied himself during the wait time by tapping the bike handle instead, humming a soft tune. Someone, though it was probably Chio's mom, opened it halfway to attend to a guest. The door was thrown all the way open the second the person realized who was there. "Hello, honey." "Honk, did you lose your key?" With an unapologetic laugh, Mr. Lin stretched past the bike's front wheel to greet his wife by kissing her cheek. "No, I wanted to come over. I figured this would be the quickest way. Our new neighbors are here." Mrs. Lin peered further on. There were the neighbors, you and Mom. Oh, I love her little outfit. It's so cute. Still staring ahead, Mrs. Lin stepped forward just in time to bump into her husband. He made a move to get into the fenced area of the porch. Mrs. Lin gasped and the bike shuddered a metallic cry. Mrs. Lin hastily grabbed the seat cushion to steady it. She leaned to the right for her next attempt to pass, and so did Mr. Lin. Mr. Lin settled on pressing his back to the little wall by the door while holding up the bike against himself. Mrs. Lin finally managed to shuffle by and reach the sidewalk, but not before muttering bashfully, "Sorry, sweetheart. It's no trouble. Go on." Mrs. Lin let out a breath to recompose her normal self after the unintentional dance with her husband and her husband's bike. Her clothes were light blue. Her hair was blue too, way, way darker though. Whenever she lifted her legs to walk, the crease in her dress moved like flower petals in a breeze. There was something so peaceful about it. Even her voice drifted along gently. "I'm Mrs. Yi Lin. If you're the new neighbors, you must be Miss Opal and Cassie Bylily. Is that correct?" "Yes, precisely." Ma raced forward, offering a shake. Mrs. Lin grasped her mom's hands with one of her own and covered the top of it with her other hand. The two didn't exactly shake. Really, they squeezed each other for a second. They were hugging, but with hands. After Mrs. Lin carefully unwrapped her fingers from Ma, her gaze drifted downwards. Mrs. Lin curled into a blueberry ball, bringing her chin to her knees. The edge of her spotless dress brushed against the grass, but it brought her to eye level with you. "Hi." She held out her hand for you to take too. You never would have guessed that was going to happen. Most adults didn't act like you were grown up or kids that be treated the same way as grown ups were. We will hold on to her hand. Like with Ma before, she embraced you with both hands and held it tight. Only for a couple seconds though. "It's nice to meet you, Cassie." Then she pushed off the ground to stand up perfectly straight in one fluid motion. You'd seen how much Chio and his dad were alike because of their matching confidence. It was the same thing with his mom, except you need a little imagination to make the connection. If Mrs. Lin was to put on a super ultra fast forward, it'd look a lot like how Chio treated people. But now you'd seen everyone on the street, plus some extras. All the other kids were about your age, were 2 or 3 years older. For adults, it was a lot trickier to put together ages, except for Tamara's grandparents. They were absolutely the most old. But when it came to the non-grandparent grown-ups, 2 of them could be 1 year apart or have a 10-year difference with almost no way to tell. 10 years was the length of your entire life. It was impossible to imagine having that much time just being an adult. Your best conclusion that Mrs. Murray would probably be the youngest grown person, and your mom and Chio's parents were somewhere in the middle. You wonder how your mom felt finding out there were 2 people around her age, maybe in the neighborhood. Was that a big deal to adults too? Was she going to make friends with them like you did Chio and Tamarack? Could someone her age be friends with people who had been around as long as Granny and Mr. Bowman, or did that not work? Grandparents were double adults, super adults. Ma kind of acted like they were regular grown-ups, as respectful to them as kids had to treat her. But one way or another, Mom was going to have to make a life in Golden Grove along these people too. Sorry, big breath. Catch my breath. "I'm sorry to be the last one of my family who came to meet you in person." "Don't worry about that. Hong had a huge advantage, all things considered. Your mom quirked her lips good-humoredly. "Although Chio also beat you to it, and that was a closer race." "Oh, a joke. A teasing one, even." Mom made an attempt at being less professionally polite. You watched on as this adult interaction, wondering how it turned out. It seemed to go pretty well, because Mrs. Lin laughed. He was very excited. There's never been another child next door until now when 2 come at the same time. Well, I hope Cassie and I have lived up to expectations. I'd like to make a good impression on the magnanimous, I don't know if that's that word, Chio Lin. The other Mr. Lin came over and joined the conversation, showing off his now freed hands with a shrug. He got on the bulky bike around the porch jail behind the mailbox so he could stop pulling around for a second. Chio has been out with friends since school ended, so we've yet to hear about what happened when he popped by your house in the morning. But I'm certain the new neighbor, Mrs. Opal Bylily, will give a glowing report after over dinner. Thank you. I'm usually the one giving performance reviews. Who knew it was so nerve-wracking to be on the receiving end? Oh yes, terrifying. That was the type of humor your mom liked. Dealing with people was her whole job. She could play pretend that it was something challenging. You didn't know Chio's mom well enough to be sure if that was also a joke or if she meant it seriously. But you guessed anyway. She sounded actually scared of the idea. Plus, Mr. Lin went for an earnest answer instead of messing around. He had to know best. You ladies have nothing to fear. No one is gonna give you a failing mark, trust me. And I can already report that my son is entirely fond of your child. Oh, that is very cute. We'll actually take a screenshot. Now that is wonderful news because my Cassie is just as attached to your boy. That was right. Chio and you were already great friends. Your final neighbor you met spoke sweetly on behalf of the entire family. We'll have to give them plenty of time to nurture their friendship. Mrs. Lin slipped her arm around Mr. Lin's. They were unified physically and legally in this opinion. I'm glad we're all on the same side here. Chio's parents were as cool as he was. Now I need to apologize myself for cutting this introduction so short. We have to get home. There's more unpacking to do before the day is over. I absolutely do want to speak more another time, though. Oh, that's fine. Yes, we understand completely. I imagine it's a big job. Getting a new house in order always is, even when it hasn't been left to collect dust. A bit. Luckily, it looks as though most of the furniture already there will be worth keeping after good scrubbing and polishing. Is that so? I thought that'd be the case. It was quite the perk of the property. Seems like they have good advice picking a location. That was said with a sly smile and a side eye to her husband. Mrs. Lin had a streak of charm too. Thanks, honey. Mr. Lin put a hand on the back of his head and one on the corner of his glasses before leaning back to laugh. He wanted to make sure nothing fell off, you guessed. But if you do need help with any heavy lifting, you're welcome to let me know. I'll call Yi. She was a gymnast in college and can do more pull-ups than me. Suddenly, Mrs. Lin's dark eyes went saucer wide. She couldn't get them back to normal size, so Mrs. Lin slammed them shut instead. There wasn't a way to get the rosiness off her cheeks. That was the biggest reaction you'd seen from Chio's mom so far. She was the one who started the praising. Oh, please, we should both help if it's needed. Your mom got a chuckle out of the exchange too. There you have it. The Lins are at your service. Thank you for the offer. Thank you for coming, Opal and Cassie. You're both welcome over any time. Goodbye. Good evening. Bye, Mr. and Mrs. Lin. With a come-along gesture angled your way, Ma turned to leave. The two of you followed the sidewalk around to the center of the street. From there, you stared up at the grand old building you were allowed to live in. It was yours and Ma's. After walking down the road in town, attending the school, and visiting with the neighbors, this place was where you were returning at the end of a long day. A thought struck your heart as much as your brain. You were going to be seeing that view for a long time. No matter how unfamiliar each sight, sound, and person in Golden Grove was then, one day, it was going to be normal. That was exciting to picture. You could be like Chio, someone who knew the ins and outs of everything. Someone who actually had memories and bonds with the place they lived in. As if the world your ma was trying to prove this would be a regular thing for you. Ma then paused breathlessly at the welcome mat like she had the day before. She just took out the same black spiral keychain loop she always used and picked one of the keys off to unlock the door. Ma put that house key on the on the coil, I guess so. And she went in, not doubting you'd do the same. You did. She hit the lights. Water break. For all your musing about normalness and regularity, when you glanced around the living room, it was all a bit too familiar. You've been at school for hours, seen and done so much, while your mom was supposed to be here unpacking. So why did it look exactly the same? Almost exactly. The stuff you slept on had been put away. Still, it was the same amount of boxes piled unevenly in the corner, the same sheets draped over the furniture. The dust you wiped down the night before was the only hint you hadn't been transported back in time to when you first saw the place. She must have had other important things to do. I've been busy, if you couldn't tell. And I bet you couldn't. A sing-song cadence carried her leading words. It wasn't the living room I spent the afternoon making it livable, and since it wasn't that, can you guess what it was? The kitchen. No, not that. Much better. Your new room is waiting for you. It's clean and dust-free, and I've already filled in some of the shelves. All you need to do is put out your bedding and make sure I didn't miss any of your things and enjoy. Your room? Your room was there and waiting for you? Oh, it was the best. The amazement was clear on your face. Your mouth was wide open after all. It made your mom grin widely. Go check it out. I'll be in my own new room. I've gotten a couple hours of work into dressing that up, but it's not quite ready yet. Ma's pair of cranberry eyes wandered around, taking in the current state of the first floor. Ideally, neither of us will have to sleep in the living room tonight. Okay, Ma. You and Ma kept walking together up the stairs. In your hall, your paths parted ways. Your room was the one closest to the stairs. The master bedroom was the furthest away. The room between those remained a mystery. You never lived in a house with extra space before. The apartments from before barely fit the two of you. Anything was possible now. Grasping the cool metal handle, you pressed down. The knob twisted until it was pointed straight at the floor, and it was kind of stuck. You had to give the door a real push to get it free from the frame. Once it had gone past the initial jam, it moved with ease. So you watched the tall door swing open, and then you stepped inside. Oh. Hello, you're about to enter the room decorating screen. At the start of every step, except for step 4, you'll be able to have personal touches to your bedroom. The older you get, the more control you'll have over your space. As a kid in step 1, you can choose between different beddings, some small possessions like toys and decorations. The furniture, overall arrangement, wallpaper, and so on can be altered in this step. Choose between options, select one of the 4 areas, choose the elements, blah, blah, blah. I know how to do this. Okay. Cute. I feel like there's more beds than last time. So cute. I love the little poofs. It's so cute. Okay, we're so having a canopy. I mean, that one's so cute and feminine. That one's really sweet, though. Oh, I like that. I like the big throw there. That one's so cottagecore, though. I like that one. Okay. And then helmet. No. They don't have their helmet there. Okay. Desk area. Books? Yes, definitely. Glowing stars. Yeah, we'll do music sheets. Maybe Cassie does music and little bracelets. Cute, yes. For sure. And little trunk area. Oh, these are all so cute. No. Cute. Oh, it's adorable. Alright, I'm happy with that. And done. Wow, your room was something any kid could be proud of. It had taken until nighttime to get your things just how you wanted them. You stepped into a corner to admire your handiwork. The floor space of the room was bigger than your last one. The ceiling was a lot lower, though. It sloped with the roof of the house, and the windows were angled towards the treetops and sky. You'd never seen a room this shaped before. It was weird. Then there was a knock at the door, the voice. The tilting roof caught the sound and directed them straight down to your ears. Cassie, can I come in? Yes. The hand jiggled and jerked. The door was resistant to Ma opening too. She figured it out, though, and let herself in. Hello, dear. Not so discreetly, Ma surveyed your efforts at decorating. Arcing your back and holding your breath, you braced yourself for a second opinion. It looks great in here. You did a good job unpacking. Air flew out of you like one of the windows had burst open. You've been so pleased with the space, it would have been terrible if someone came in and said it was no good. I'm pretty much finished myself, but it's late. Let's take a break from that and chat. It's been a long day all around and back and forth. Sure, Ma. Okay, here goes. We're still not entirely done, not even now. Your Ma pulled her folded arms in even more and her mouth pinched too. We should talk about how things will be once I'm back to work. I won't be able to drop you off or pick you up from school most days. I'm sorry. It does seem common for kids in this town to walk or ride bikes to class at least. I think that skateboarder. It's really cute. That was another thing, Ma. I made extra sure move to the new house along with your backpacks. You must have known it could come in handy. It'll be up to you if you'd rather go on foot or use your skateboard. I'm sure a skateboard worked just as well as a bike. You've got to see the way there. You shouldn't ever be the only one on the path. You weren't scared to do stuff without her, but you like spending time with Mom. It'd been fun to go together, at least sometimes. Well, she had to do her job. You just have different types of fun. Accepting the inevitable, you nodded. Alright, that's one matter attended to. Here's part 2. What you do after you make it back from school. You'll be done with class for a good few hours before I'm off the clock. Mrs. Bowman and I were talking when you were outside with Tamarack. She offered to keep an eye on you while I'm away. She's retired and insisted to be no trouble. That means you go over to Tamarack's house for the afternoon, or it could be Mrs. Bowman popping in now again to check on you if you're playing at home or outside. Tamarack is already a friend, so it's not like she'd mind you being around regularly. Mal held up one finger and kept on with the explanation. Of course, that's not the only choice. We've got options. While I didn't get a chance to officially ask, I'd bet the Lynns would be equally fine if you wanted to hang out at their place. They're good people. I know Mr. Lynn decently well at this point. Plus, your son would externally extend an invitation to visit whenever you wanted. He's sociable, and I can even see you're in with him. I can also look into lessons and extracurricular stuff being offered in town. You could do that some days instead of staying in the neighborhood. Maybe you wanted to take up an instrument or learn how to dance, and I'd be able to come get you there when it was done. The hand finally came down. That must have been all the possibilities she could think of. It all sounds fun to me. Oh, sorry. Looks like I don't need to worry. Ma, stop squeezing yourself as much then. Still, there's no reason to plan out the rest of our lives together. The two of us will figure it out. That was something you heard a lot. No matter what you went through, your mom never stopped believing you and her advantage. For a moment, she gazed past you at nothing in particular. Sometimes it felt strange, remembering how you were actually there, when all the stuff you had to keep with you stopped and you could just think. Maybe your mom felt that too. She blinked and her eyes fell back to you. Ma smiled. But our neighbors are really nice, huh? All 6 of them. We've had a lot of luck here. Lucky you couldn't even describe the incredibleness of what moving had brought. No words were needed for her to understand your thoughts on it. Your face said enough. With a grin, Ma stuck her hands over her jeans. Now, if you don't mind me changing the subject into a entirely different matter, let me just say it's dinner time. As reward for how much you've done, because the loaf of bread is out at this point, and also because even if it wasn't, I do not want another sandwich, I'm taking the 2 of us out. I've heard that the local diner is a gem. Alright, very cute. Thank you, Ma. Then there's nothing else to discuss. Food it is. Wait, you've had a huge realization. What about Tamarack and Chew? They've been nice to you. Maybe this was a chance to do something back. In the one day you know them, Tamarack and Chew had done multiple things. Tamarack sent you her airplane, Chew wrote you a nice note, Chew also walked you to school, and then Tamarack went with you after class and had you visit her house, and other stuff too. You only just got to this town. It was hard to do anything good when you didn't know anything, and almost everything you had was sealed away in a cardboard box. But having someone take you out to dinner was even a bigger deal than all of that. How many kids could do that? Not many. It cost money. Though, Chew went over to Darren's house, didn't he? But Mrs. Murray said he had to be home by dinner time. That was right. You swallowed those words hard. Hopefully you weren't going to be bothering with nothing. You grasped Ma's cotton cardigan. It felt soft and familiar as your old baby blanket. So you tilted her gently pointed chin downward. You had her attention. Yes, Cassie? I think, we should invite Tamarack and Chew, don't you think? Oh, interesting. I can't guarantee that both of them will be able to do this in such short notice. However, I am at least not saying no. Let me see what I can do. The answer was both a relief and a new source of uncertainty. It was easy to get your mom to listen. What happened next would be the real test. Anna hunched over to reach around herself. She was never without her chunky silver cell phone and had lived in her back pocket for years. The sheen of paint had nearly worn away, and one corner of the screen had a snowflake-shaped crack, but it only needed to work, according to your mom anyway. Mom managed to get the too-thick phone out of her tuned-in pocket. She balanced it at the palm of her hands confidently. With that, nothing could stop her. Hopefully. One of the other things that happened while you were outside with Tamarack is that I got Mrs. Bowman's home and cell numbers. I'm nothing if not productive. I can call her up right now. With a few quick taps, she brought the phone to her ear and waited. And she kept waiting, and so did you. How many times did I go run? How many times were left till I hung up? How long did it take to answer a phone? Finally, there was a sign of something. Ma's lips pulled into a polite smile and her eyes widened eagerly. The biggest hint, though, is that she started talking to Tamarack's grandma. Hello, Mrs. Bowman. I'm sorry for bothering you at this hour. I hope I'm not interrupting anything. Uh-huh. Her mom quieted down again. She was listening attentively. Nothing to do with wait. It was a ringing phone all over again. If only you could hear what was happening, too. Ma thought it was bad manners to share phone conversations unless the person was already expecting that. Privacy was priceless, especially when breaches of trust could get a company sued. Mrs. Bowman must have had a lot to say in the conversation. She didn't know it was going to happen, because Ma stayed totally silent for a while. A couple of times her mouth began to open like she was about to say something, but she had to nap it back up and listen some more. On her third attempt at speaking, your Ma succeeded in finally getting the words out. Well, since you haven't settled down for the night, I wanted to ask if Tamarack might be able to come over for dinner. Cassie and I are going to try out the local diner. Ah! Ma's face had twisted into wince. Even you had caught how loudly Granny exclaimed. She wanted to know what had been said, but not like that. The shout wasn't enough to scare off your mom. She regained her poise and pressed on. Yes, that's the one. You're familiar with it then. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. There was nodding and mm-hmm for another minute or something like that until, thank you, Cassie and I are grateful for that. On saying your name, Mom made eye contact. A wordless understanding passed between the two of you. Mission accomplished. We'll come by and get her in just a few minutes. Thank you again. Goodbye. Ma jabbed her hand to the phone with gusto. Tamara can join us. Mrs. Bauman is a fan of the diner herself. She thought it'd be a lovely way for the young ones to celebrate the first day of school. Wow, thanks, Ma. That's one down. She winked. Luckily, I've had Mr. Lynn's number for quite a while. He shouldn't be surprised by a call from me. I'll check if he's free to talk. Ma clicked the phone to find the next contact and went straight to the side of her head again. Shocking to you and her, Ma got a response in a matter of seconds. Ah, hello, Mr. Lynn. Good evening to you. I'm sorry if this is a bad time. No. Everything's completely fine. Then a rapid conversation came to a pause in Ma's, her lips pressed together in silence. It didn't last long. She was smiling again, and less time it took to tie your shoes if you were good at doing that. That's wonderful. Oh, but the reason I called is that we were curious if Chu might be able to join us for dinner tonight. I'm taking Cassie and Tamarack out to the local diner. It'd be my treat. And their tiny pause happened, and her grin grew more over the space of it. She even laughed at something. Yes, I can imagine. The pair of parents and chuckled a couple times more. At least you assumed Mr. Lin was in a good mood. It'd be weird if Ma was amused by him being mad, and then the call wrapped up. Thank you. All right, goodbye. With a sense of finality, your Ma stuck her phone in its jeans, and its home in its jeans, in her jeans. I can speak, I promise. 2 for 2. Mr. and Mrs. Lin are apparently entirely used to these kind of requests. He had joked that whenever he gets a call on his own phone, there's at least a 50% chance it's actually for Chu. Was that why he finished the conversation so fast? Maybe he had to do his job. Either way, Chu's dad got stuff done. I'm sorry for Mr. Lin having to lobby that many queries, but it works for us. That means Chu can come along. And dinner with your Ma and you. It happened basically every single night of your life. A dinner at a diner you'd never been before and didn't happen much. But a dinner with Tamarack and Chu had never happened before. Thanks for asking, Ma. Of course. Ma smiled as you did. We shouldn't keep them waiting. Put on your scarf, I'll get mine too. It'll be chilly out there and I'm starving. Same for you. Your stomach was a huge, empty pit. If you didn't eat soon, it might suck you in. You did everything you could think of doing before leaving as fast as you could do it. Then you were braving an unknown in search of sustenance. And your friends. Oh, you were outside at night. That was not the same as walking around during the daytime. The orange-hued street lamps glowed like torches, the formerly orange trees turned an unnatural purple, and the tarmac expanse of the cul-de-sac could easily be a perfect, still, endless deep lake. If you tripped in it, you could fall in and disappear forever. That sounded like the start of a story. Ideas of what might happen in such a perilous adventure were already filling her head. But Mom wouldn't let you play in the dark. You shook off the daydream or night dream. Would it be a night dream, or would a night dream be a normal dream? Either way, you focused on not being left behind. You and your mom passed through the gate around your yard, then approached a rectangular gray house for the second time that day. Even in the limited light, a pop of sparkling colors stood out. Tamarack was already there. She elected to wait outside with her scarf and bag in tow. He made eye contact across the grassy path between your home and hers. Cassie! Flinging her hands in the air, she zoomed out from the porch to meet you. Tamarack went so fast her floppy boots threatened to slide off her feet. Tamarack! You ran over and barreled into a hug. You moved towards each other with the unbreakable pull of super magnets, and you clung together if you were stuck like that too. Tamara rocked from side to side, hanging on best as her little short arms could. Out of everyone in the world, she had to be one of the top people to hug. Very nice and snuggly. Mom trailed behind, letting out a noise that was part laugh and part huff, and realized how urgent the reunion was. It is! Hi, Cassie and your mom. Thank you for letting me come. You're very welcome, Tamarack. We're happy to help you join us. We're gonna get you too. Yeah, we've got to all go. Now a trio, you strolled down the sidewalk until you went completely around to the opposite side of the curve. Ma tapped the doorbell a single time. The sound of it was speedy ding-dong, and then it was done. Even the Lynn's house got straight to the point. You were left huddled at the dark porch for less than a minute. The one who answered wasn't Mrs. Lynn. It wasn't either of the adults. It was Chu himself. Standing in the open doorway, he was all lit up from behind that cast harsh shadows over his features. Autumn's face was still beaming on its own. Hey, I hadn't seen you two in forever. We missed the whole best part of the day. Hi, Chu. We'll say, hi, hey, it's so great we get to go to the diner. Chu's his hand settled on his hips as he leveled the music glance at you. Oh yeah, it is. I think we'll do a high five. Oh, Chu swung his left hand to give your palm a good smack. Nice. His gaze lifted high so you could greet your mom too. Thanks for getting me dinner, Mrs. Bylily. Thank you for coming on such short notice. That's nothing. I've gone loads of times. I can come over whenever. Good to know. And so everyone invited to dinner was there. Together, he went to the center of the street again. Ma unlocked the car. Tamara asked for the middle again, and she got it. Chu scratched his head over that one. It was kind of mysterious without explanation. Tamarack only wanted a window seat in school. He was cool with not being stuck in the middle himself, though. Rapidly, the car rolled into motion. Tree after street post after tree flew by. You couldn't see anything else. Unfortunately, Ma also wasn't sure what she was looking at. She had trouble figuring out exactly where the local diner was. The radio had to stay off. This required the utmost focus. That didn't mean it was a silent drive. It was loud, actually. Sitting tall at the edge of his seat and gesturing wildly, Chu offered his best to find him which road to take and when. At the same time, Tamara was bouncing in his seat and shouting stuff she remembered seeing on the way to the diner the first time she'd been there. Neither of them could give directions very well. It was either wrong or entirely possible to understand unless you were in their own heads. Ma was patient, though. She never gave up. At the end, in the outskirts of Golden Grove, you found the place. Cheers, footsteps, and hand claps filled the car, and you and Tamarack spotted a massive lit up sign saying the diner table. It had to be what you're looking for. Diner was in the name. Ma knows that too. She wound the steering wheel, turned to the parking lot, a wry smile playing on her face. The diner table? Not the dinner table? Someone didn't get an A on their spelling test. Ma, it's a joke. Really? Yes. Oh, wow. It's always been named that. That doesn't mean it was an accident originally, but it's memorable at least. All right, before we go into the diner table, we will end the stream there. But yes, thank you so much for joining me. Lovely time, and yeah, I hope you have a wonderful day. And make sure to go check out the Kickstarter if you haven't already. I'm gonna keep plugging it until it's over. All right, thank you, Magoo, so much, and goodbye.